Welcome, welcome. It's another episode of Grieving Voices. Today, my guest is Nicky Scorpio. Welcome, Nicky.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I just got a little bit taste of what we're going to talk about today, and it's too good. I had to stop Nicky to record because it was getting too good. So, like right out of the gate, I just have a really great feeling about this episode. So first, Nicky, introduce yourself. First of all, too, like who you are, where you're from, and kind of what brought you to Grieving Voices.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Yeah, so for those who don't know me, my name is Nicky Scorpio. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, engineer. I do a lot of different things really in the world of wellness. That's why I love what you're doing. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I think that it's important, and I think it's the one thing that connects all of us. I originally come from the Bay Area. I was raised in Berkeley. I've Berkeley, California, land of the hippie and conspiracy theory. Um, I have been living in New York for on and off for about 8 years, and currently in the Detroit area right now with my girlfriend's family. And yeah, what brings me here is this is going to be a little shout out to She's All Over the Place podcast, Katie Chinakis. Katie brought me here. um, we both very understand the importance of, right now more than ever, being able to give yourself permission to grieve, being able to say like I'm going through something, and not just having to put on a smiley face. I lived in Los Angeles for about 5 or 6 years, and I've had you know the privilege of being able to be around people from all different walks of life. I come from very, very humble beginnings. I was raised by a teacher, and as you know, teachers don't get treated like celebrities. Unfortunately, it should be uh, flipped over, in my personal opinion.
Agree with you
Um,
on that.
yeah, so you know, I've been able to hang out with 99% and the 1%, and there's a lot of misconceptions about people when people don't understand people who come from different backgrounds. And what I've experienced is a lot of times people who don't come from money, who have unhealthy beliefs about money, will look at somebody who does have money and they'll judge them, right? And what people don't realize is that person who has, financial freedom might not have people around them that they can trust. And they might have been told like, don't show your emotion, right? So a lot of times, and this is a generalization, but like a lot of times people who are really, really good at money have a very difficult time at showing their emotions for whatever reason, the story that we all carry. And when I started realizing this and seeing, especially in entertainment, how you see so many talented people that all of a sudden they get success and they have all of this money, and then they have no one around them to say like, hey, like, how are you feeling? Or like, it looks like you're taking a lot of pills, or it looks like you're drinking or smoking all the time. Like, are you okay? You get these people that are also insecure, that don't check in with the person that's supposed to be their friend, and then it all kind of comes crashing down. And so for me, especially as a guy, where guys are taught to bottle it all in and to hold it all in. And that's why I see more people not only having anxiety and depression, but you're also seeing more people taking prescription pills and doing a lot of different things and self-medicating. um, for me now more than ever, I want to make this conversation human. I want to make it cool. And I want to make it acceptable and celebrated in society, to say like, hey, I'm not feeling okay. Oh, okay, that's cool. Well, I have my friends, I have my family, I have my community. And that's how it used to. No matter where you're from in the world, lastly, no matter where you're from in the world, all of our ancestors, that was how it was. We all had elders, we all had community. And that needs to be cool again. Like, that needs to be something that's accepted and again, like, celebrated, to say like, when someone's not feeling okay, like, I know your mom, or I know your dad, or I know you, like, I grew up with you, and like, better than this. We got to check in with one another. So yeah, that's
And
why I'm here.
and isn't it ironic that we have social media to do just that? And like the more connected we claim to be, the more disconnected we have become.
It's really wild. There was a without naming names, there's a celebrity, actually, I saw this yesterday. that was doing a social post for a medication, and people were getting on that person about that. And when I lived in Los Angeles, I had the opportunity to work with a social media agency, people who take celebrities, from like A-listers to whoever who has the means to pay for this service, right? And it's it's wild to me how people who aren't in Hollywood, people who aren't in the entertainment industry, they do have this very like, if I were in this world, if people acknowledged me, if I had millions of followers, that I'd be okay. And for me personally, like, I've been in that world. I know people who have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds and millions of followers, and then the camera turns off and they have no self identity. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they're doing. The people around them are often, and this is again, this is, generalizations, but toxic, just really, really superficial, really mean spirited. And then what I got out of this, and again, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, is that for people like you and I, for people that understand the importance of being vulnerable, and maybe, like I'm more introverted, people that are more extroverted and have the ability to interact with people and network and do all these different things, they crave authenticity. They crave people around them that are real, that will, call them out on their stuff and say like, I've never been impressed by money. I've never been impressed by fame. For me, it's more of a means to, like, if you have a good intention, that you can do something powerful, right? So I wish that there were I wish that there was an education on social media, because what I've been able to learn and how I've been able to heal myself, and how I've been able to completely transform my life and myself is through social media, has been amazing. At the same time, if I were 12 and I had social media, I was bullied. I don't know what I would do. So it's a double-edged sword that needs to have a different dialogue for sure.
You hit the nail on the head. It's the education piece, right? Like, how are we using this tool
Yeah.
to be of service to the greater, bigger picture, and then to ourselves and into our four walls, like
Yeah.
just the people who are within our circles.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no matter, lastly, I'll say, like, no matter what you're looking for, like, if you're curious about something, like, I know people that were looking to get into veganism. I eat mindfully. I've tried a lot of different things. I consider myself a seeker. If you're curious about something, you can type in a hashtag, you can find ingredients, you can find recipes, you can find a whole community, and then your whole algorithm changes up and starts giving you more stuff. So every day, instead of me going on a social media and being like, gee, look at Billy's traveling and has 100,000 followers, my life is terrible, I get to wake up with like sound bowls, and I get to wake up with like, look at this beautiful place in Iceland, or like, things from someone like yourself, where I'm getting knowledge, I'm getting insight, and I'm starting off my day like, oh, cool, like I'm good enough. So yeah, it's choices, options.
well, there's the education right there. Boom, mic
Yeah.
drop. Clean
For
up our
sure.
feeds, right? Clean up our
Yeah.
feeds. Think
100%.
about what
100%.
you need
Yeah.
to grow, to evolve, to feel good.
Yeah.
It's about feeling good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Um, you had mentioned briefly a documentary called Happy. Can you share a
Yeah.
little bit about that? Because that's a good segue.
Yeah, so there's a amazing documentary on Netflix that I watched a couple years ago, and it's called Happy. And it's the psychology of happiness, and they go around to all these different cultures. They look at the United States, they look at places all around the world, and they say like, what makes us happy? And one of the happiest places in the world is in a very remote village in India, and they have very basic means of living, right? Like they kind like, as people know who know what's going on outside of the world, like India, like they're still looking to have like clean drinking water all the time. Like there's a lot that could be better, that's actually thankfully being fixed and helped. because of technology. However, they don't really have a lot. They they're not influencers yet. What they do have is they have community. They have people around them where like they're happy because every day, no matter what you're feeling, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling down, hang out with people that are dancing. Hang out with people that sing all the time. Hang out with people, no matter what your religion is, that have faith, and try to be down. You can't. Like the smile kind of like forces in a healthy way, like forces itself up. And that's the power of community, right? Like when I grew up, I had my immediate family was small and kind of like split up when I was younger. However, Thanksgiving, I had like amazing men and women in my family that were the greatest storytellers, and I used to just hang out with them, and half the time I didn't even know what they were saying, but it was so like I was just always in awe of just listening to how they would talk. And being around, for someone who grew up without a father, being around these, men that were charismatic, that were good people, that were faithful, that were monogamous, that were very international and very well rounded, had a strong character, shaped me into wanting to have that, because I saw the power of that. And it's interesting, and I recommend everybody to check it out. It's called Happy. The documentary is called Happy. It's interesting because as Americans have this idea that when we accomplish the next goal, when we get that raise, when we get on our page, when we get like the blue check mark, when we get whatever it is, that house, that all of a sudden that we're gonna be better. And from what I've learned, if you're not mentally, like if your perspective isn't healthy, like if you don't have people around you that are checking in with you, and again, I have people that call me out. Like I don't need a bunch of people that are just being fans and saying everything you're doing is great, because I'm human. But when you have that aspect in your life, you get freedom, and you understand that no matter what you have, high or low, that you have optimism, that you can be happy with anything, because if you can be happy with nothing, then you can be happy with everything. So it's big.
That's very good. Loved all of that. All of that. So tell me then, how did you get to here? I mean, you mentioned
Yeah.
the support system and the role models that you had, but
Yes, before
obviously you're
before the
not really
end, once
going
upon a
to,
time. Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to dig into that until you're probably an adult or you're a little bit older and
Yeah.
reflect on that. But what was growing up without your father like for you? And
um I have a very diverse, like I grew up in such a diverse household and community, that for me, like I have a very broad perspective. So I grew up in kind of like a rough part of Berkeley, um, and like literally right by the train tracks. And you know, we were pretty much like the only white family, and it was interesting because on one side of things, like I was raised to know my culture. Like I've for my again, like my mom's a teacher, and so I was always raised to know where I come from. I grew up eating all different types of food: Indian food, Jamaican food, American food, et cetera, Mexican. And so I always understood different cultures. And where it gets even more diverse is I was raised in an LGBTQ plus family before it was cool to label it. And um, so on one aspect, I, we were kind of like, we fit into the neighborhood, but at the same time, like we didn't, if that makes sense. And when when I was about 9, everything in my life just completely and totally flipped. So right around New Year's Eve, my other mom left our house and said, that she didn't want to be a part of this, that this was my mom wanted children. My mom wanted children. My father was a very, very close friend to my mom, and I'm an artificial insemination. So he was in my life, but he wasn't in my life. But I did have a two-person household. And my other mom left, and kind of around the same time, my father died of AIDS. And while all of this happened, we also had to find a new place to live because my other mom at the time was with somebody who didn't really care that we had a place to live. It was very manipulative. It was very toxic. It was very difficult. We've worked through it. I speak to her now like I love her and I've forgiven. Um, and and then on top of that, right around the same time, like my grandfather passed away, and I went from being, I was like the Bart Simpson of my school. Like everybody knew me. Everybody loved little Nicky, and life was good, and life was fun. Even in all the chaos, it was always like be yourself, be colorful, be bright. And kids are so resilient, right? And I was so resilient. And then we had to move to, my mom wanted to get out of the neighborhood that we were in because it was getting pretty bad. And there was some like pretty intense, which we could talk about in another time, pretty intense uh racial based violence that I experienced with my mom, being attacked. And my mom, the next day, by the people who attacked her, was taking care of their kids, because that's what my mom did. My mom was a teacher before she was a teacher. She took care of the we did like low income daycare, right? And so I grew up with kids from all different backgrounds, special ed, everything. And um what was interesting is I didn't process all of this. So I was still being the class clown, and I was still kind of goofing off and stuff. And yeah, it was difficult moving, but then right around 12, everything kind of started to hit me. And what's interesting is there's people that are angry and there's people that are not aware that they're angry. And I wasn't aware of how angry I was. And when I was a teenager, my mom had to do a lot of work to get me to really even, because I was so frustrated, because it's like you, as a teenager, you're comparing, you're looking at other people's lives. You're, when they have like the, like, bring your parents to work day, bring your dad, blah blah blah, these kinds of things. And you start to, you learn when you're a kid, you learn where you are. If you're wealthy, if you're rich as a kid, you know that you're rich. And if you're not, you definitely know that you're not. And I knew that I wasn't, because we were living in like a bootleg version of like Beverly Hills 90210, and it was a small town in the Bay Area, and everybody knew everything about me. So I got bullied over and over and over again in many, many different ways, from like, your mom's a lesbian, but they didn't say it that way. It wasn't friendly. It wasn't cool. To people just calling our house and just saying terrible things about me and about my family. Um, a lot of different stuff. And I was really, again, I went from the top of the totem pole and I got knocked all the way down. And I was this outsider who was like, two this way for these people and two this way for those people. So, you know, as I continued to grow older, I I realized that I was making unhealthy decisions, and I hit rock bottom. And it was from hitting that rock bottom, which I feel like a lot of us go through. And if we don't realize that we're going through that rock bottom, it can be detrimental. However, I knew that I was going through a very difficult time. And from there, I again, I don't judge if people don't believe in God. I don't care if you believe in whatever you believe in, right? From me, like, I connected with God, and was just like, all right, I surrender. I put my life in your hands. And I started going on this journey, and I started studying different philosophies, and I started looking for kind of like more Eastern stuff. And I got into meditation. I then met my lovely girlfriend, my lovely partner, and you know she introduced me to shaman, into healers, into different ceremonies. And I just started cracking my code, and realized from doing all of this work that people say that everything happens for a reason, but it sounds corny and it sounds cheesy. But what I learned, kind of like and we can keep on going, but like the edited version of this, what I learned is that a lot of times we look at what we're going through as like the ultimatum, like the final chapter. And what we don't realize is that it's a page in a book, right? Like if we're going to give that analogy, it's a page in a book, and it's not the end of the chapter. Excuse me. There's plenty of different chapters, and if we can just go through this and have that faith and have that optimism of like, this thing that I'm going through is going to lead to my greatness. Like now I'm at the place because I was able to say like I'm not okay, or I was able to say like, oh, I'm angry from this, or when your home splits up, then you get abandonment issues, and I had to learn about abandonment issues, and I had to learn about like why I'm making these kind of choices, and why am I feeling angry when I'm seeing other people, like you talked about social media? Why am I getting jealous, or why am I getting angry when I see somebody else who's genuinely happy? There's something that's kind of off about that. And I started checking in more with my feelings. And then what I got to was we went to Lightning in a Bottle music festival. And you're hearing me talk about this now, but I put up a huge wall before. I had huge trust issues. And there was this amazing poet, and his name's Prince EA, and he's so good. He's so intelligent. He's such a genius with his words. And I wish poetry was more mainstream. But for the first time, I really wanted to get up on the microphone. Like when after people speak and they say I want to just give props, or I have a question or something. I'm normally not that guy, but I wanted to. And I was able to have a conversation in that moment because the woman before me um, was native, and she was upset because someone was who wasn't native was wearing a headdress, and their friends were putting her down and talking about her, and she was angry about this, rightfully so. And 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 basically there was this huge tension because like the people were upset or were offended or were thinking she doesn't understand, and people that were more connecting with her were frustrated because they relate to it. And I had this conversation, with Prince EA, where I said, I kind of gave like a brief, very, very like 30-second version of my life where I said, like, this is how I was born. This is where I come from. Like, this is how my family is. And I've seen my mom struggle as an educator, as a teacher, and she's an angel. My mom, when I was in high school, worked 5 jobs a week just so we could live in a better neighborhood, right? And I want to know how we as men can uplift the women around us and how we can be better as men. And I said it in a more eloquent way, but it was this moment where, because I shared this, everyone stopped, and the anger dissipated. It like shattered that wall. And the women that were like hard, because I was raised by a feminist, so I get it, hardcore. And and the women that were hardcore feminists turned around, and people turned around, and the co-founder of Lightning in a Bottle was there, and she turned around and pointed at me, and I had this moment where I was like, vulnerability is the key that sets us free. We have to share. We have to all tell our stories. My story isn't better than your story, isn't better than anyone else's story, but it's a story. And through these stories, through this wisdom, through this perspective, we get to broaden our perspectives, and we get to understand one another. And especially again in the male community, I learned because I was raised by women. So like I don't necessarily connect with that like macho energy. A lot of times like there's a lot of preconceived notions towards people like myself. And I was able to get this of like v- vulnerability, which we're taught: be optimistic, be happy all the time, be outgoing, be upbeat all the time, just be on all the time. That's how our society is. But it's really this vulnerability that connects us. And that's really, that's the kind of long version to answer your question. That's how I got to where I'm at. Is I learned through all of these experiences, and again through all this education, and through my mentors, through my peers, through people around me that shared like, this is a shaman, like you can do a ceremony, you can meditate, you can do vipassana, you can do a 10-day silent meditation where you don't say a word at all and you check in with your feelings. You can read these books. There's been a million people before you that have experienced the same things, and 1/8 of those people have written or have done something to share, to teach. And what I got from that was, we need to enjoy the chapters that we're reading in our life, not think that it's the last chapter, but also not only to have that faith, but to say, you know what, if I'm not feeling okay, I'm not feeling okay. And if I can be okay with that, that can open up doors, and then I get more authentic people around me. I get people that are okay with me being that way, and then I get celebrated. And when I'm feeling sad, and when I'm feeling angry, and when I'm in all everything in between, and I have people who say that I'm good enough and that I matter, which sounds silly, but it's something that we all need, that and want and crave that validation. I can move mountains and I can make magic happen. So that's really it. And it's been, for me, it's still a journey and it's ongoing. But now, at least in the craziest of times, like, I get freedom and I get peace, you know.
So good.
Thank you.
Hold on, my dog is barking. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, I do. That's
Okay, one
another thing that'll
second.
keep us happy, is shout out to dogs and cats. They definitely keep us happy.
So I've been told, just roll with it. Just let the dog bark in the background. But oh, does
Yeah.
it just? I can't do that. Hold on, I'm gonna go get him. Okay.
Okay, of course. Cute.
I'm pretty sure Mr. Gizmo made his presence known during Katie's episode as well.
Nice.
Stay quiet. FedEx came, so
Aha.
he thinks he's a guard dog.
It's always the small ones.
Yes.
I definitely was raised around like the dachshunds, like the wiener dogs, and man, those things are, it's comedy all the time. But yeah, very barky. Yeah,
Only when there's people coming around that he
yeah.
doesn't know. Let me take a breather. A second. Okay. You mentioned you had hit rock bottom. When was that for you?
Um, that was right after I graduated from high school, and again, that was my mom pointed out that she started showing me kind of like, and it was a very simple conversation. She was like, this is normal when people, excuse me, when people see danger, when people see chaos, they go away from it, they cross the street. Whereas from what I learned, this wasn't my mom, this was from me learning, that when, as a young man, when you grow up without a father, you are more likely to get in trouble. You're more likely to be incarcerated. You're more likely to find yourself in poverty. You're more likely to, not do well in school. And I hit everything on the check mark. And, it was really in that point, from experiencing all of that, when I I by the grace of God, like, I got my freedom, and my mom was pointing out to me, showing me, like, you know, this is how you're communicating, and these are the people that you're choosing to be around, and this is the life that you're choosing. And even though, like, you grew up this way, that there's more for you. And I actually, um I went on kind of like a cool journey where I packed these bag lunches with my mom, and we went around Oakland, and basically I had lunch with 10 homeless people, and I had conversations with them, and was just asking them, like, you just talking with them, just like gaining wisdom from them. And really, it was through this process where I started realizing that I had lost my way. And when I was younger, like I said at the beginning of the story, when I was younger, I was around everything and I was aware of it to a certain degree, but I was so resilient. Like, when you're a kid, when kids play, like, oh, there's hot lava on the floor, they see in their mind, like, they see hot lava, and that's it. Like, they can create anything from their imagination. And and again, like, everyone loved me when I was younger, and my head was very big, my skin was very pasty, I dressed like I was, like, fresh out of, like, a Crayola color box, but I didn't care. I loved myself. And then when life hit me, I went from being Nicky to Nick to serious, and Nick was very serious, and Nick put up a wall because Nick was getting judged, and Nick had to internalize all of this stuff and hold this all in because again I was getting bullied. I gained and I lost thankfully, but like I gained 90 pounds just eating junk food because a girl told me who was older than me. She said you're gonna die alone and skinny, and and I was young and I believed her, and so I deliberately started gaining weight and doing things, and that's what I'm saying is that in so many different ways, because I was insecure, that I believed these things, and that's again like that's another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, because there are so many people that have golden hearts and they get beat down and they are insecure, and if those people, if those kids, if those boys and girls were told that you're good enough and were given kind of like a guideline to celebrate who they were, that this world would be completely transformed. But it was really from me just unlearning a lot of different stuff where I started to discover, wow, like I've always been this people pleaser. Like I've always told people that I'm okay, and I've always kind of like been the free therapist for so many people. And when I really started transforming, when I really started changing, 90% of the people around me changed. People said that I was better than them, that I thought that I was, like too good for them, and just people like making fun of me for wanting to like learn and to heal myself. And it was a very difficult transition, but it was it, for me it was like a necessity where I'm like I don't feel happy, like I don't feel good with what I have, and I've had successes, I've been up and I've been down, and and I still, even when I was doing well, like I wasn't feeling good about myself, and it was really this need of like, I know that there are people that feel happy, I know that there are people that no matter what they have that they feel good, and I went on this journey and I unlearned all of this stuff, and I realized where the root of everything came from. I just constantly was like, no, like this is frustrating, but that's not it, it's deeper than that. No, it's deeper than that. It has nothing, no, it doesn't matter if, okay, like I have money now, I'm still not happy, it has nothing to do with that. And then I cracked my code, and then from there was like, all right, cool, like life is going to keep on hitting me. It's not that all of a sudden like I've reached nirvana and everything's perfect. It's more so of, I have tools, right? Like I can like earlier, like you took a deep breath, like you can do Wim Hof breathing. You can just breathe. Like you can take 3 deep breaths before you go into a meeting and it will slow down your mind. You can listen to what people say. You can listen to what their truths are. When you're around people, are they, if you're in sales, if people are saying, "Man, it's a slow day today," do you acknowledge that? Like do you nod and agree with them, or do you just let them vent and just express their stuff because it has nothing to do with you? Do you, when people put you down, when they say terrible things about you, do you believe that, or do you know who you are? It's things like that. And so even though it was rough, and it sounds like I'm not a master, I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert in any way, shape, or form, but because I went through all of these very traumatic and difficult experiences, I was able to understand everyone is going through this. Where people say we have to stop the bullying, no one's saying how is the bully feeling, because the bully is getting bullied. The bully is going through terrible things, and the bully is actually the hero because the bully is the only one who's saying, "I'm not okay, I'm not okay, I'm not okay," right? And and so that's what it is just being able to slow down and to observe instead of just reacting and just living in this world of like, okay, I'm upset, so I'm gonna post a photo online, or I'm gonna like do something. No, like stop and cry or yell or breathe or do something so that you can actually like enjoy your life, and so you can actually be in a more centered place, and keep people around you, keep good people around you.
I had so many thoughts and I was just listening. I was hanging on your every word and now all those thoughts escape me. Hold on. I'm trying to think. There was something I wanted to say in reflection of all that you shared. That was amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I resonate with so much of what you said. Um, just recently, I was having a conversation with someone, and I used the line like we do in grief recovery work. Hurt people.
Yes, I wish everyone knew. I wish there was an app that could just go off when somebody says something or does something.
Yeah, like a reminder, like,
Yes,
hey, that wasn't
yes,
nice.
yeah,
Are you hurting? Like,
yeah,
what happened to you? And that's the thing too. Like doctors, if you go in, you're not feeling good about, you're down or whatever. What happened to you? You never asked what happened to you.
yeah.
Um, the heart, the energy of the heart permeates like 6 feet outside of our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
like our energy.
Yeah,
And we can choose what energy that's going to be. Now, I'm not saying don't feel what you're going through. Don't I I'm a huge proponent. You got to sit with it to heal it, right? You got
sure, of
to
course.
feel it to heal it. But like you said, it's like there has to come a time where you just get sick of your own crap, where you get sick of you get sick of where you're at in life.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you how did you Well, is there a defining moment for you that is like that you can pinpoint?
I forget. I don't even know who said this. I heard it, and it was on audio, and it was basically like the simple version of it was instead of being angry, be curious. And for me, what really led me to having peace and to having freedom is having that curiosity of like, why am I feeling this way? Why when this person says this to me, why do I feel this way? And why when this other person says this to me, like this, I'm okay with this. Like, why can't I feel okay, not necessarily happy, but like why can't I just be secure with who I am? And that was a huge one for me. And then I learned about projecting, where you talked about how hurt people. So for people who don't know, when it's like life is a movie, life is a show, and people all have their different shows that are all going on at once. So when somebody comes from a household where they're taught like, don't express your feelings, bottle it inside, let people see that you're beautiful, let people see that you're polished, that person is going to grow up and have anger issues. And when you don't live within their means of what beauty is or what success is, they're going to project their anger that they haven't processed onto you. These were two things that for me, I was like, oh, so everyone who, because like I'm not a saint, I might be named after one, but I'm not. I'm a human being just like everyone else. And like when I can understand, like I can make mistakes. Like I am imperfect, and that's okay, right? But when you're around people that are perfectionists and they don't know how to express and communicate in a healthy way that you can do better, if you take that personally, it's just going to reinforce this victim thing. However, again, I learned because I'm hanging out with people that are traveling, that have millions of dollars, that have everything that I've ever wanted, and you get one person who has deep-seated anger issues. They're very, very toxic in their conversation behind the scenes, right? But then when they get around other people, they're all smiles and everything's all good. And then I get around someone else who has everything and they're an angel and they give and they're generous and they're kind and they're so, and I learned no matter what, rich, poor, black, white, everything, all the different titles that connect us and divide us, there are people that get that we're human, and there are people that haven't processed their emotions, and they're projecting this anger and this insecurity onto them. So for me, instead of taking it personally, I started to get curious and started to say like, wow, that person, if that person spoke to me that way, imagine how they're speaking to themselves. And for me, again, like that gave me freedom, that gave me peace and an understanding. And now I have compassion instead of being like, oh, look at this person, let's cancel them. Like, no, let's have a conversation. Let's get to know them, and that was that.
I say this on every episode, but I just got full body chills because you speak my language. You're speaking my language. I was very angry. My father passed away when I was 8. I watched him slowly decline over 2 years, and it absolutely wreaked havoc on my relationship, you know, in my household with others. And I grew up very angry. And it's that trauma, the grief, it's cumulative, it's cumulatively negative. And so all these things that stacked up for you, all my experiences that stacked up for me, anybody listening, your experiences, they accumulate and they accumulate this gunk within us. And if we don't sweep our doorstep, right? If we don't clean our doorstep, we're spreading that to everyone around us.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about the grief recovery work. It's sweeping your own doorstep. It's taking 1% responsibility for your life. Just
It's
1%. Just
yeah.
1%. It's like you're
Yeah.
not taking, if you can do that, it gives you hope that you
Yeah.
can forgive yourself, give yourself compassion. And like you said, I think when you go through so many different traumatic and grief experiences throughout your life, and you finally wake up to this potential that you didn't even know you had within
Right.
yourself,
Yeah.
and you feel hope, um, there's no stopping you.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
so huge.
you don't have to
Um,
be in that place forever.
Yeah, there's if you're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, I think you're talking about education online. That's a person who really also was like my cup of coffee, like my emotional cup of coffee starting the day because one what I like about his energy is he's very raw and it's very much like you just got to get over what you're going through. Like sometimes we have a friend who does that for us where like you get out of a relationship and you're sad and your curtains are drawn down and you like haven't shaved or showered or whatever the case may be, and then a friend comes in and says like, hey dude, like you got to get up, like you got to go for it. And the world needs more people like that. We need that kind of like, you got to get over it. Like no one, it's rough to hear, but it's like I'd never seen The Devil Wears Prada, and recently I watched it, with Katie, and there's a scene where he's basic. One of the characters is saying like, you want for somebody to pat you on the head and say poor baby, and that's the thing is that when you have abandonment issues are wild because I don't know if it'll ever stop, but again, at least I know that it's there. But when you have abandonment issues, the layers and layers of how it affects your career, of how it affects your personal life, how it affects your relationship, the relationships that you choose, the people that you choose to be around. And when you can understand like it might be a little bit harsh, but when you can just say nobody is going to pick me up, nobody is going to say like, oh poor baby, it's okay, because I'm not a little child anymore. I have the spirit of a child, I have the energy of a child, and I'm never going to give that up. um because that's a gift. When you can understand that you need to pick yourself up and that you need to just say, you know what, every this was my thing, was that like everybody is going through something, everybody has had like a difficult story, and some people are just going and going and going, and I want to be that way. So you know what, I've been beat up enough in life, and but more so, I beat myself up enough. I created a story out of all of the stuff that I went through. I could have told a completely different story. I could have interpreted everything in a completely different way and been a completely different person. And when I can just say, all right, cool, like I get it. I don't need to be a victim. I don't need to hang out with people that are victims. I understand that it's difficult to navigate through this, but I need to conserve my energy so that I can do greater things and not operate from a place of guilt or shame. Now I'm good, and then I can actually do greater work and I can be a better person because like I feel complete and I feel good enough for myself, instead of wanting that validation from our moms, from our dads, and looking back at the story and being like, oh, if only I had. No, that you got what you got, and love it and enjoy it, because like Tony Robbins said, if you're gonna hate your mom, if you're gonna be angry at your mom, love her for what she gave to you. Same thing for your dad or whatever it is, right? Like if you're gonna be angry at this person, you better thank them because they gave you gifts of not being a victim, of standing up and of being a better human being, you know? So it's a double-edged sword. It's perspective.
One thing I've been pondering for, well, since I've done the deep work with grief recovery on myself, is that, like, do we have to have like this? I think a truth that I've discovered, and I don't know if this is true for you, but a belief that I've come to feel is that we all have this loss, like we'll have another loss, because grief is cumulative. So there comes a point, like a rock bottom for grief, where you do get sick of your own crap, where you do, like, I'm tired of feeling this way. And when you were talking about how you just really started to ask, you got curious,
Yeah.
like that's exactly parallel to my experience. Like, I was like, why do I keep feeling this way? For me, it was in 2014. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I get into this psychological loop every day?
Yeah.
And I got curious. And when we get curious, we seek answers.
Yeah.
And when we seek answers, we are looking, actively participating in our lives, looking for something to help us give us that answer.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the key difference. And the thought I've been pondering, it's like, well, geez, why couldn't that have happened when I was like 23 instead of like, I don't know, 36, 37, 38,
Yeah.
Like, why did it have to take another 10 years?
I
And that's
I
the thing I've been pondering. What
I
are your
feel
thoughts on that?
I feel like if you look at different places in the world, because like again, I've studied a lot of different religions and faiths and belief systems, and um, I was talking earlier about Vipassana. It's a 10-day silent meditation, and it's more so in places like India, Bangladesh, and um, there are Eastern philosophies. Like I got curious about Buddhism, right? And one of the things that I like about Buddhism is it's really more about like detachment, about observing, just observing. And I feel like again, like this is a cultural thing where you for people who have traveled, when you go to other parts of the world, you will, for the most part, you will see that people are genuinely happier than Americans. And again, that's a generalization, and it's because there is a sense of culture, right? Like you know your significance, you know where you come from, so you're not constantly trying to like aim for some obtainable goal or whatever. But that you also have like a deeper understanding, and things that you and I are talking about are things that are kind of like common knowledge in these religions and in these practices and in these cultures. And like even in like India, they talk about how life is the great illusion. And if I had grown up knowing these kind, because my mom very much educated me and told me a lot of different stories, and I knew a lot of different things. But as a society, that if we you know and again, now is a great time. If you have a kid, as difficult as it is now, you can actually have the time to teach your kids. If you have kids, I don't, but if you do, you can, that you can teach them these kind of concepts of like what you were saying, where hurt people. It's a very simple conversation to understand, or that life is an illusion. You look at this person and you think this person has everything. You don't know how they are when there's not a filter on them, and when the life isn't edited. You don't know that person. And I've seen it. I've hung out with people because I've been in a relationship where I hang out with people who normally don't hang out with people like myself, and I'm like, wow, I wish that there was some way to just show people, just to say like, you don't have money, and you look at this person who cut you off in traffic, you're like, oh, of course they're driving a Mercedes, of course someone like that would do that. If you had 30 seconds within their mind, like, you would drop all of that ego, and I just the reason why it takes so long is because we're just simply not taught this. And I'm a big believer in education. I'm a big believer in the power of education. And for me, I got all of my education while I wasn't in school. I just was constantly curious again. And I feel like for anyone listening, if you can just really be curious, if you can really challenge yourself when you're having conversations with people, just do like a 1 week challenge, do like a 7 day challenge, or like a 1 month challenge, but start small and just listen to what people say around you when you're having conversations to people. And if you can just observe and not make them wrong, not make them right, not make them better, not make them dumb, but just listen to them and just be curious from there, that opens up doors, but yeah, if we were taught these concepts, it'd be a different world, but we're getting there, and because of amazing people like yourself. So
Thank you for that. I absolutely love, love, love that challenge. Challenge accepted. And I had a thought about that in that, God, Nikki, why does this always happen to me? My memory is horrible. I'm gonna have to edit this. You were talking about, and it was coming back to, and I wasn't thinking to respond. This is why I need to write stuff down. I was like, oh yeah, that's a great point. Okay, I want to add on to that. What was it? You were talking about like different, like the education piece. Um,
yeah, because you asked why did it take so long.
yeah, I'm pretty sure this happened during Katie's episode too. It's like the deeper I get with people, it's like, oh, what was that?
Nah, I relate, I understand. Take your time.
Because I wrote down the 7 day observing challenge. Oh, it was before that. Just recap what you had said before that.
So I was talking about like the reason why is because we're not taught this in other cultures. It's taught. We talk about like the great illusion, um that that I had to search offline in order to get my education. Um, what should I say? So a lot of times, like I channel it, so it's difficult. That you were saying like why did it take so long, and I said,
It was just something, must have been like something that was like just a brilliant thing you said. And I was like, just sparked another thought in me. Oh, and it was good. It's so good, I can't remember. Okay, well, maybe it'll come back to me. Um, you've said so many good things today, many, many good golden nuggets. Do you have one tip that you would give another hurting heart today?
yeah, I would say, because sometimes we forget what other people are going through, or we forget that other people don't have people around. Like people are curious, but then they don't often have people around them, and I feel like that's something to really to remember. Is I would say, if you're grieving right now, if you've lost someone, I would say it's okay to grieve. I would say, like when I lost my grandmother, that was one of the most difficult things. I was actually with my grandmother the on the last day, and it was a really beautiful experience. And it was also really sad because I was so close with my grandmother. She lived a full life. She lived to be 96. And there was someone in my life that when we were at the service where they said, your grandma wouldn't want for you to suffer. You should do something to celebrate her. And I think that's an important thing to remember, that yes, it's okay to feel sad. That's a natural thing. You've shared this amazing experience with this person and now they're no longer there. If you've lost someone or if you have gotten out of a relationship, remember that at the origin of whatever relationship, romantic or non-romantic, that there was always love, and that regardless of how that person is or isn't or speaks to you or no longer does speak to you, that they don't want for you to suffer, and that it's okay to feel sad and to feel angry. It's also really important to find a way to release it, even if you're just going online and finding like how can I just go online and just Google how to release anger, and go down a rabbit hole. But don't internalize it, because there are so many people in this world that get these terrible illnesses and disease because they keep this inside, and they think no one's going to understand, and they have all of these pressures, and they have all these people around them that they have to take care of. And if you just need to press time out, and if you just need to grieve, then grieve. But please don't tell people that you're okay if you're not okay. Tell people. Like, one of the things I love about Katie is that when she's upset, when we'd go to the grocery store, if the grocery store, like the clerk says, how's it going today, that generic conversation that we get, x amount of times per day, she'll say, I'm not okay. Or she'll say, like, I'm angry, but I'm going to get past it, or something. It's not like a sugar coated thing. It's not just like, I'm good. Like, if you're not okay, tell people that you're angry, tell people that you're sad, because 90% of all of the things that are going on, why people need more pills and more medication and more stimulation than ever, is because we're taught just keep it inside. And there is a powerful, powerful feeling about being okay with not being okay, about, you know, being able to share with people what you're feeling, and especially in the male community, that guys really need to express it and let it out, so we can have less cancer and less sickness and less stress in this world. Everyone is going through something right now, and it's okay if you're upset, even if you have a job, even if your workplace and you're not feeling okay. It is okay. Our culture is going to start slowly changing where this is accepted. It's starting to get there, but just express it. Please just don't internalize it, because it's exhausting. It is exhausting. And I give you permission, if you can't give yourself permission, to release it and let it go. And if you have kids, and if you have people that you have to take care of, just tell them and just express it. Please don't keep it inside. That's
Amen. Amen.
it.
It is, I think, it's like, I want to say normalize grief, and it's normal and natural. And the whole premise of me starting this podcast is for grievers to share their stories, because everyone has a story and everyone's story matters. But it's, I think, also about normalizing emotional honesty,
Yeah. Yeah.
making that normal, to be honest.
Yeah. I
Because if,
really Go ahead.
like you said, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to lie to people's faces. Do you like to be lied to? I
No,
don't.
that's the golden rule. It's the hardest rule, is to treat people how you want to be treated,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I really wish, especially in the entertainment industry, in the entrepreneur field, in the artist field, I wish people who are not the successful artists, but more so like the upcoming artist who so desperately seeks fortune and fame and success, whatever that may be. I wish that there would be more of a focus on, I'm going to be more of myself and less trying to climb this ladder thinking that I'll get success. Because I wish people who are independent artists and who are upcoming entrepreneurs and thought leaders could just take a look behind the curtain and trust me when I tell you that people are just as human as you and are just as insecure as you. And, you know, just I know it sounds cliched, but just be yourself. Just if somebody says something that you don't like, be true to yourself. If somebody is saying something that's unacceptable, or that's rude, or that's racist, or that's ignorant, it doesn't matter if that person says that they can help you. It doesn't matter if that person has like the golden egg or whatever that you're looking for, that you think like, oh, this person is going to help me, so I can just accept everything that they do and that they say. No, stay true to yourself, because then you'll get better people around you. The management, the team that I have, Burn It Down Group is amazing. I found two people that get the importance of what we're talking about in music. Do you know how the music industry is? It's under the table, it's smile in your face and stab you behind the back. There are people now that are in the entertainment industry that want to see good people win, that want to see, relationships be promoted, that want to see healthy love. Like, and that was from me turning down offers from people that had everything and I could have had it all. But I was like, no, I don't care if I'm going to be 90 years old trying to start like a career. I'd rather be authentic. I'd rather be true to myself. And again, I just want to have good people around me, because I've had beautiful people that are not the greatest people around me, that I'm just like, this, like, who am I? You lose yourself. So don't lose yourself. Please don't lose yourself. Please.
Bingo. Bingo. You lose yourself. You live into this identity of your pain,
Yeah.
unprocessed pain. You live into that identity. It's almost like I said, I've said this many times before, but grief puts a veil over your face.
Yeah.
It's a veil you wear. You may not realize it. You don't probably even recognize that you're grieving.
Right.
But just like the things that you said, the behaviors that we resort to make ourselves feel better, ask yourself the better question. Why do I have this need to feel affirmation from all these other people? Why do I have this need to have X amount of dollars in my bank account? Why do I have this? It's like all these external things that we're chasing,
Yeah.
this external influence that we desire, when the only influence that really matters is within ourselves, because
Yeah.
that's what's permeating out.
Yeah.
Whatever is going up, and whatever is going on up here, that's what you're living out, like in your mind. You can't see me pointing at my head, but that's what's you're living outwardly. you
Well,
know
what's wild about that is that everyone else, in the same way, like if I was walking down the street, if I was in a bad mood, people would see that about me. Um, oh, hold on a second. I don't know what just happened. Okay, how do I get back to the video?
I do see you.
Okay, I can't see you. I guess it's okay. I don't know. Okay. All right, we'll just keep going. Okay, so edit. So what's interesting is that people can see, if I were walking down the street and I were in a bad mood, people would know that about me, right? Um, People can see things within us that we don't see within ourselves. We just wake up in the morning and like I'm Nikki. I just wake up and I shave and I moisturize and I talk with God. I meditate. I do what I do. I drink my coffee, and that's just me. And I just keep on going. And sometimes I just don't even question it. And then somebody talks to me and they say something to me, and I just react because I don't even think about it. But but again, earlier, like when you start to slow down and really question, because I was saying earlier, like, listen to how other people speak, listen to how you speak with yourself, listen to how you, like, if you meet somebody and they aren't in your bubble, if they don't dress the way that you like, if they don't say things the way that you like, look at that and step into that. But understand, what I'm getting at is, understand, in the same way, when you look at other people and you judge people and you see things within people, the people that you're looking for, if you're unhappy with your life, with the company that you have around you, understand this. If you're single, if you're looking for love, if you're looking for a career change, the people that are looking for you are looking for your best self. And that doesn't mean putting on a smile and being cheesy and being inauthentic, but it means that there's work to be done, because if you want to get that relationship where you have loyalty and you have monogamy and you have everything that you've ever wanted, and or you want that business partner or whatever, right? Like, you need to be present, and you need to do what it takes to be present, because you don't need to keep meeting new people. You don't need to keep networking. You need to go within yourself so that you can be present, so that when that person comes by you and they talk with you, you're actually happy, you're actually content with who you are. So then all of a sudden you get this opportunity. You're like, where did this come from? I've been doing this X amount of years, or I've been doing this over and over again. Nothing's ever happened. It's because there's something that you're not seeing within yourself. And for me, that was a huge thing. And when I started really realizing that happy and successful people were seeing that there was grief within me that I hadn't processed, when I started processing it, all of a sudden now I have great people in my life, you know? So I think that's an important thing to be said.
And it takes time to
It
peel back
does.
all the layers. It's never, you never fully arrive,
Yeah.
like you said, at nirvana
Right.
or the perfect life. It's ongoing.
But hey, you can give
And
yourself permission though. You can, at least, it takes time, and that's
yeah,
cool.
exactly. Yep. You sure you don't want a job as a grief recovery specialist?
Yeah. I
You'd be a
I
wonderful candidate, I think.
Thank you. I'm open to it. I actually, what's interesting is, right when COVID hit and turned the world upside down, so to speak, like, I had this whole plan. I had this whole strategy with music and everything, and then I actually stopped because no one's performing, no one's touring, and then I started asking myself, well, like, what am I doing at the root? Like, what am I about? And I started doing content, and really focusing on this discussion that we're having, and you know, for me, I actually, before music, I wanted to be a psychologist, but I just didn't have the patience to go through so many years of college, and it wasn't my calling. But however, I have always been interested in that, and I've always been interested in psychology, and yeah, like, I definitely, for me, music is and entertainment is like a stepping stone for a bigger issue, you know, in this realm in which we're talking. But yeah, I definitely, I love sharing with people, and I love hearing people's perspectives, and I'm a seeker like yourself. So yeah, I'm definitely open to it. For me, you know, being able to be seen by people isn't to feed my ego. It's there's a real issue that's going on, and you know, again, you see this when you travel and when you interact with different people. The more work that you do, the more you realize other people don't have that. And just being able to share, like, when I've talked with like teenagers, or I've talked with like moms, or and I people share with me, like, there's this weird thing that I have, that this beautiful gift that God gave me, where people will tell me things that they don't normally tell people. And it's interesting when that happens, and then you can share like a healthier perspective, and it's like, oh, I never thought of that. Like, I remember talking with a mom in Whole Foods, and she was saying something to me about how somebody was like being verbally abusive to her, and I said something along the lines of hurt people, and it was like a light bulb went off, and I'm like, oh, that's right. People don't understand this, because look at the world that we're living in. So I definitely, I'm open to that, because for me, the money comes and the money goes, and the money, or the no a new one I heard was, the money comes and the money grows, which I I like better. um there's a bigger issue that's going on, where people need to come together, and if you have information, if you know something that can make people better, it's time to share. It's time to share, you know. And
Hence this podcast.
yes.
Because we learn from other people's experiences too, and other people's stories,
Yeah, I
and
wouldn't be who
through
I was.
community.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here without the amazing, like, Shaman Durek, Harry Paul, Katie Chinakis, she's all over the place podcast. My friend Jeff Carrillo, he owns Starfire Water, which is amazing. All of these great people. I wouldn't YouTube the hashtags that I found on Instagram, like I would be right out there confused, angry, and sad, and feeling like the world's gonna turn upside down, and it's over. Thankfully, like, I have always been curious. And one other thing that I wanted to talk about really briefly is, I feel like one of the things that really has given me peace, and I feel like it's starting to happen more now, is, and we briefly talked about this at the beginning, is that we need to accept that people believe differently than us. We need to be okay with that, and celebrate that. This cancel culture ideology needs to stop. We need to stop trying to cancel people because they're ignorant to our ways and to our knowledge. In the same way, when we make mistakes, if we have a job or if we have a relationship, we want for our partner or for our boss or for whoever to forgive us and to understand that we're great. Well, it's not a one-sided thing. It's both ways. That we need to understand, not everyone thinks the way that I do. Not everyone believes in the same God or the same deity or the same thing. Not, and that's okay. Like, I'm okay with that, and I hope that people can understand that you're going to meet people along the way that think that you're weird, think that you're different, think that you're off, think that you're crazy, or that you're flat out ignorant. But if you can accept that, and not that you have to accept that person in your life, but if you can embrace the fact that people are different, then you've already won. You've already gotten, the victory, because that's something that,
Except,
yeah.
yeah, except that it's an opinion. And the only opinion
Yes.
matters is the one you have about yourself.
Yes.
And my grief, with the election, and I didn't plan to go here, but my grief with the election, and I even shared on my social media, was that, we talk about unity, 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 and let's come together. And then I see people on Instagram just like,
Yeah.
if you don't believe how I believe and you didn't vote how I voted, you are not welcome here. There is
Angry
no room
emoji,
for you
angry
here.
emoji, angry emoji.
Yeah.
Yes. So
I
it's,
was like,
thank you.
oh my gosh.
Thank
Are
you.
you
Thank you.
adding to the discord and the negativity and the separation?
Yeah. I think we can briefly talk about this, because I've had this conversation with my mom. Berkeley, California is very much how Berkeley is. It's people who don't live on the West Coast a lot of times will tease people who are in California or whatever, or talk about like conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. And I have friends who are Republican. I have friends that are Democratic. I have friends from all different walks of life. Some of their beliefs, I don't share their beliefs, but I again, like, for me it's a simple thing of like, I want for people to accept and to embrace me. So I would be hypocritical if somebody came up to me and was like, this person should be president, or this person should be president, and I put them down, because my beliefs and my thoughts for me are valid. So therefore, what, another person comes into this world and shares something, and their thoughts aren't valid, like somehow they're not a human being, and for me, that's the biggest frustration with all of this, is that people need to stop thinking that when one person becomes president, or when one thing changes, that things are going to get better. We need to say, you know what, I don't agree with you, I don't agree with your philosophy, but however, like, I can try to understand, I can be curious, and I can maybe learn a different way, and not and still stay true to myself, because there is this huge thing of like there's articles where it's like, oh, look, the Republicans are putting down the Democrats, and there's all this talk about votes being fake, but look at how the Republicans were being this way when they were making fun of the Democrats for the votes not counting or whatever. Like, and it's silly. It's like, you're doing the same thing. You're being children right now. Like, stop it. Like, just accept that someone's different than you, and just be okay with that. Like, it's the same way you'd want for somebody to do to you.
Bingo. What example are we setting for kids right now in society,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really scary to me that I see this stuff and these people are parents. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa. Like, I would hope that if my child is different or doesn't vote however someone else votes, that they would be given grace for their differing opinions, and that my children would give other kids that same grace for their differing opinions. Do we
Yeah.
really want a world of minions and robots? I mean,
No.
that's my biggest question here. It's diversity, and there's a thing too, like we're supposed to embrace, this is my thought that I couldn't remember earlier. We are told to embrace diversity, right? We are a country of diversity, and yet we do not accept diversity. Because
Right.
if we really truly did, we would understand that there are diversity also in stories, in
Mm-hmm.
people's pain, in their grief that we all share, grief that we all share,
Yes.
just different.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing that unites us all. So how about we embrace that everyone is going through something and it's different than what it is from you, what it is from me, but it
Right.
doesn't make it less. It doesn't make it less traumatic for them. That is the most hurtful thing that anyone can do to a griever, is to compare.
I
And yeah, go ahead.
I would say, like, if there's anyone, I'm really big into like family, into kids. Like, it's like, for me, like, children are everything, and having healthy children in this world are everything. And I, if there's anyone who is a new parent or is going to be a parent, one of the things where I feel like really makes such a major change in a kid's life is bring them around diversity. Like, I grew up literally, like, I wish I had like a photo. There's every color of the rainbow, every kind of background and walk of life. So when I came into the world as an adult, nothing surprised me, nothing shocked me, and I understood and respected everyone else's culture. Whereas when you live in a world where you don't travel, and you're with small-minded people, and nobody's traveling, and nobody's trying to look at anything else except for other than their belief, then everything is scary, and everything is unknown, and everything is different, and this kind of stuff. And if you can just try, I know it's difficult to travel right now, but if you can really bring kids, or bring yourself, bring your inner child around different cultures, and just show that to them, so that when they grow older, when you know TV is telling you this person is scary, or this way is better, or this way, you already know. You know what you know, and that's your truth. That's the truth. It's not this way or that way. It's undeniable. Like, yeah, it's diversity. What a concept. That's
And
what
here's
makes
the other
America
thing.
great.
Here's the other thing on that. Thank you. That's what makes America great. To piggyback on that, it's I don't think you need to leave home to experience diversity or to understand it or learn about it, right? I think it's actually instill a thirst for learning, to
Ah, yes.
seeking to seeking those diverse stories out, to seeking, like, watch National Geographic, you
Yeah.
know,
I love
um
following nature hashtags and stuff. Like, I love that. I'm big nature guy.
and the History Channel. And I mean,
Yeah.
we watch the History Channel as a family. It's
Yeah.
like learning. We watched Vice.
Yeah.
There's a channel
Vice
called
Vice is
Vice.
Vice is so cool. The History Channel is so cool. There's so much, like, when I'm really big into the History Channel, all the different shows about, like, I forget the guy's name, Von Diedrich or something like that. Like, he's been dedicating his whole life and found the original scripts from, like, the Bible, and how different it is. And they talk about how, like, aliens and stuff like that, stuff that they would never teach in school. Yes, seeking knowledge is for me, like, I have to, because if I don't, then I'll I'll lose my mind. I have to keep on learning, and see what else is out there.
And that's the thing. It's like when my kids ask me, well, why does this person believe that? Or why does, I don't know. But why don't you research about that
Yeah.
And you can maybe put yourself in their shoes and understand why they believe that.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Our diversity is our backgrounds, our diversity is our grieving stories. It's not just what you see at face value, right?
Yeah. 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 That's huge. Good on you. Yeah. No, I definitely, ah,
It's
it's funny.
embracing the whole human.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with children, because again, like kids are so resilient. And when you can give a healthy perspective to a kid at a young age, they'll understand these concepts. Like when you tell a kid, like I remember so Katie, her nephew, he's right at that age, kind of like where I was when, like, everything kind of started changing. And I remember, there was a moment we were hanging out and he got upset with his sister. It was just like sibling stuff, not really a big issue. And he reacted in a big way. And I said, it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay when you're angry and you take out that anger onto other people around you. And it was like click, and he got it. And that's the thing, is when you're around kids, like, it's so important to give off that healthy, perspective, and really drop those little gems, because it is available, but it's not promoted, if that makes sense. Like, they could find out this information, but it's not what the algorithm recommends. It's not what's being advertised. It's getting there. But yeah, it's good on you for sharing that with your kids, because kids will get it. Kids want to connect with diversity. They want to be around diversity. They don't want to just have the same old same. They want to learn, and they want to grow and expand by nature.
Yeah, they're natural sponges. And we learn everything we learn about grief and how to process it by the age of 12.
Yeah.
By 12, we already learned 75%. 12, 15, we've learned 75% on how to process and go through grief. So my piggyback to that, what you just shared, is that it starts with us as the parents, the caregivers, the caretakers, anyone who is in charge of the well-being and welfare, the whole child, and we all play a role in that. And I'll tell you one thing, I am a better parent today than I was 15 years ago when I first had my son. And I have grief around that, honestly, because I wish I would have had the self awareness that I do now. I wish I would have had that then. I would have been, I was the angry parent,
Yeah.
angry a lot. And it starts with us.
Yeah.
It starts with us because that generational learning that will continue on until we unpack our own crap.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I want to say. One is a quick one. Vision, the creator of Mind Valley, talked about how he had unhealthy beliefs where he heard his parents talking about, they had to choose to give a gift or not give a gift for Christmas. And so he grew up with he heard that and he translated that into an unhealthy belief. And then he idolized a teacher, and the teacher was struggling. They had to help out the teacher so that the teacher could pay rent. Everybody got together. And so he, in his mind, created a belief that teachers, in order to be a teacher, that it's more authentic to struggle. And so he'd make hundreds of thousands of dollars and he would give it all away, right? So there's that aspect. And then second, so it's being aware of what we're sharing and speaking about around children, because again, they're so open, and but they also can, mistranslate things. But also, my mom had this conversation with me. um she's had it several times, and recently she had it, and it was like her, sharing this thing of like, oh, I could have been a better mom to you, and like, I wish that circumstances had been better, and there was all this like guilt and all of this shame. And I started sharing kind of like what was going on in my life, because my mom and I talk, fairly regularly, but there's a lot that she knows and there's a lot that she doesn't know. And for me, what I would say to any, parents out there who feel any kind of like guilt or shame is that, again, like, you don't know what's being written into their book. You don't know why things are happening the way that they're happening. And I feel like the best thing that we can do is to say like that you're good enough, and that and that you matter, and that, you know, if you have any weird or different ideas, that they're cool, because kids are going to translate things. They're going to hear, and it's not the parents' fault. It's not my fault that I heard my mom talking about ABC, and so like I made this whole story of like, you know, this means this, and that means that. It's more so of, I'm going on my journey, and I'm learning my lessons, and things are happening to me so that like I can do something with this information. That's my work in this life. For me, like that's the meaning of life, is like we all have our own things that we're learning. We all have our own things that we're going through, and you know, and people come into our lives and they come and go, and it's what we do with that, and you know, what our character says about us, how we choose to react to these things that we all go through. But just having that support system, just having people again around me, and it's not about like people saying like, oh, you're doing a great job, but my the most successful people in life, the common thing that they all shared is that they had parents and they had people around them that whenever they had a weird or different idea, they were always celebrated in that way. There was always like, yes, you can be this way. Yes, like there's a, I don't know if it was Da Vinci. I think it was Da Vinci, where like he grew up believing, even though he wasn't rich, that he grew up believing that he was rich, and so he was able to accomplish things, and sell art and be this legendary painter, uh, because he believed this, and you know, and just having that belief system, you know, is such an important thing. But I think for parents out there, let go of any expectations of like, oh, I wish that I had been a better parent. I wish that my kid felt more loved, or that, you know, they were able to have this kind of life, because you really you don't know what resilience they're getting, and what lessons they're getting out of it. The best you can do is just to really be there for your kids and say like, you're going to go through hard times, you're going to go through difficult times, there's going to be a point in your life where life is not going to make sense, and you're not going to know what to do, and that's okay, and I'm here for you. And you need to know that even if you're embarrassed, even if you feel that it's a terrible thing, I unconditionally love you, and I'm going to be here for you, and I believe in you, and you're good enough, and that's it, and just start from there, you know.
I just want to bring up one point. The thought that children are resilient, and this isn't to poo poo on you saying that, but I just want to highlight the fact, though, that when we say that children are resilient, we can sometimes minimize
Sure, of course.
their experience. And because I know for me personally, I was only 8. I don't know really what was going on. You know, like we underestimate children. And so using that language of they're resilient,
Yeah.
it's almost like that they'll get through this. They'll get through this.
Yeah, no, I get
And I
I
know
get
that's
what you're
not your
saying.
intention. I know
No,
that's
it's
not your
not.
intention.
No, it's
Yeah.
not at all to downplay it. I
Right.
think it's more so. I think it's more so that so, you know, kids are more of an open book. When you talk with somebody who, you know, is a little bit older, they've already seen it, they've already been there, they've already done it, right? So like we all, like, you know, you know this, like we all experience
Mm-hmm.
pain, we all experience grief, right? If you can have a conversation, when I say resilient, what I mean is, when you have a conversation with the child, they are more open to the concept that you're teaching. So like when I was younger and I went through what I went through, I was still optimistic, even though my life was like my home went like this, and everything went like this, and my mind, and then all of a sudden I went from being this happy-go-lucky child to just being angry, and comparing myself. But when I understood why I was feeling this way, that for me, like, everything clicked. So when you have a conversation with the child to say again, like, you're at a certain point in your life, things are not going to make sense, or you're going to look at somebody else and think their life is better. You have the knowing within yourself to know that your picture will be painted beautifully. I know it's cliche, but or your book will be written beautifully, or whatever the references that you want to give, that your life, although it might not make sense at this point, there will be a time after that happens where you see why all of this stuff happens, and it will be a blessing if you're optimistic, if you have that healthy perspective. It's not to say kids can just go through whatever, because I've seen, even now that I'm older, like I've seen kids that are going through stuff, and I'm just like, wow. And the people that are involved with these kids who aren't their parents are looking and saying, oh my God, I can't believe these kids are going through this. And I'm like, no, but they're kids that go, that have it the hardest, that do have the brilliance to be able to rise from it, are the ones that change the world. The kid that goes through the tragedy, that loses a parent or somebody to a terrible disease, becomes a doctor, and they help thousands of people. So it's difficult, but it's, within that conversation, it's that kids are more open to understanding why they're making the choices that they're making, and that, like, they can have peace within who they are. If I had had somebody telling me when I was in high school, that this girl who said this to you, that made you gain 90 pounds, she was hurting inside and she was angry at herself, I might not have had so much junk food. So like that kind of thing, I'm saying more so to clarify. But yeah,
Yes.
totally.
And that is, yes, that is the key thing. Communication. That is the key thing. And we are not going to be the initiators of that communication with those kids. We are uncomfortable with our own, what's going on with us, right? And what's going on in the situation. My mom did not have a clue how to process what she was going through. She therefore was emotionally unavailable to help me do that. So that's, you're 100% on that communication. That is the
Yeah.
key. And if you don't know what to do or where to start, then seek that education.
Yes.
It's,
Yes.
we have a book, the Grief Recovery Institute. John James Russell Friedman wrote an excellent book. It's called When Children Grieve. There's your education.
Yeah.
I facilitate the program in a group setting online to help you do that, to help you learn those skills and education. So there is education out there, and like you
Yes.
said, like the online resources. I mean, you don't need a PhD in hard knocks.
Yeah. No,
You can get a,
it's
you know,
yeah. One, like, to your point, recently, like a couple years ago, there was a woman that I spoke with who introduced me to, just really, like, went in depth about being an introvert, and recommended a couple books to me. And the library now has audiobooks where you can get knowledge for free. You can just, if you're not an actual, if you're not a person who likes to actually hold a book, which holding a book and turning the pages is beautiful, and it's a whole experience within itself. However, if you're not that person, which is okay, and you're busy, you're just on the go, you can get audiobooks for free. When I started really understanding the concept of being an introvert, and what a gift it is in a society that's very extroverted, and again is always like, no, you got to put on a smile, you got to be good, you got to be upbeat, you got to have energy, you got to have this and that. When I started realizing this is everything that I've been trying to explain to people, where it's such a gift to be introverted, it's such a gift to say, like, I'm gonna go within myself, and I'm gonna study, and I'm gonna, like, learn these kind of concepts. When I understood that, for me, that was, I think, actually, that would really be one of the biggest moments where I got freedom, which was like, yes, like when I lived in Hollywood, like, I would be introduced to people that were producers, that owned agencies, that were living in Bel Air, that were living in dream homes. And I'd be introduced to this person, like, this is going to be, the greatest person you've ever met, and they have all these opportunities, and I could look right into their eye, and say, like, something's off here. And when I understood that that's part of the gift of being an introvert, then I could expand from there, instead of saying, like, I should be networking. I should be like this person. I should, like producers in music producers are often very, very introverted people. They can just live in a cave and just make music and then never, ever, ever come out. Even Dr. Dre, like Dr. Dre is very introverted to a certain degree. Like he could at the beginning of his career, like he could lock himself in his house and just make music and that was it. But when you understand these kind of concepts, and for anybody out there who doesn't like meeting people, who gets social anxiety, chances are you're an introvert, and there are gifts that come with being an introvert. And extroverted people crave people like us because they just want to keep meeting people, and they don't often see the person that they're meeting with is not a good person. So if something feels off to you, then that's a gift, and you shouldn't doubt that. You should listen to yourself, and you should understand this part of yourself, and keep expanding on that. There's things you can do so that you can expand on this gift, and everywhere you go, no matter where, you're like, nope, this person isn't for me, this person isn't for me, this situation isn't for me, and that's it. Yeah, knowledge is power. Education, what a concept.
Introverts unite. I'm an
Yes.
introvert. And I never really thought of it as a gift either. You feel like you grow up feeling like something's wrong with you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Such a jam-packed conversation. I absolutely loved this. I don't even know, like I've so many notes jotted down. I'm not even sure where I'm going to pull a clip for this episode. It's been a joy getting to know you, to meet you. Um, Definitely a light in the world and keep shining. Um, you see a need in the industry in which you work, and I have no doubts that you're creating ripples,
Thanks.
even if it's in your immediate circles of people that you know. Um, we are the sum of the five people that we surround ourselves with, right? I'm
Yeah.
not sure who said that, but I've read that a long time ago. Some entrepreneur said it.
Well,
Um,
you're a pioneer yourself, and it takes one to know one, and you know just keep. I acknowledge you, and we need to just acknowledge people around us, and we need to really, as a society, outside of myself as like an artist, like we need to acknowledge and give more power and more compassion to people like yourself, which are educators and teachers. Like it's not easy, it's not always fun. People do it because it's a necessity, because they have to. And we need to, like myself included, like to hold myself accountable, that anytime that there is somebody who is teaching and sharing, a lot of times they have it the hardest. And if you're listening and you know somebody who's an educator or a teacher or someone who is a thought leader, to really, it's not that they're more important, it's not that their emotions are more important than yours, it's to say, like, give them that encouragement, and to tell them how awesome they are, because although people might seem like they have it all together, you know you never know. And again, that's the power of community. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I know that it's not easy, and I acknowledge you, and I think it's great work that you're doing, and I have every bit of faith that this will continue to get cooler and cooler, and bigger and brighter. And I appreciate you, and thank you for doing what you're doing and for having me. It's a gift.
Thank you for that, Nikki. It's yeah, let's make grief cool. Not in like a,
Not in like an
it's
emo hangout in the dark kind of way, but yeah, just yeah,
yeah, it's here to stay, right? It's not going anywhere.
yeah,
It's not this, let's like take off the disguise of the monster that we
yeah.
look at it like, and that it feels like for us. It's like this
Breathe and let it
looming
go.
horrible this beast, that is all consuming. And there's hope. There's hope.
Yeah,
You're sitting here talking to me,
yeah.
and the life that you've endured and the things that you've gone through. Nikki's hope, you guys. And the people that I bring on my podcast are hope. They're hope bringers. And so I don't take my guests lightly. And so thank you for sharing your story. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah. At Yo Nicky Scorpio, YONICKYSCORPIO on Instagram. I'm part of a collective on YouTube, the Sophisticated Psychos. We're doing a lot of content in the same kind of realm, and those are kind of the main places. I have distanced myself from Facebook because I'm tired of what we were talking about earlier. I'm tired of angry emojis. I'm really on Instagram, but yeah, definitely keep in touch. I'm going to be releasing some really cool music, that is really about everything. It's about connectivity. And what's really cool about it is I've connected with an amazing scientist, and there's going to be healing within the music. There's going to be frequencies within the music. And we're going to bring that to the forefront for people who've been doing this for decades and for centuries. We're going to make all of this healing, all of this Eastern philosophies, we're going to make this mainstream and make it cool. So yeah, please connect with me if you ever need a friend. No judgment. You have a safe space. Send me a direct message. I'm here. We're all human, and sometimes we feel alone, and you're not alone.
You're not alone. And that's, they call them binaural beats, right? Or something like that, correct?
There's binaural beats. There's frequencies. There's so really quickly, if you go on to YouTube, there's a amazing documentary by a scientist who discovered the HIV virus, Luc Montagnier. He's French. If you look up that, he takes just look up water documentary. Luc is Luc, I believe. Montagnier is Montignier. He's French. But he basically takes a recording where he puts the virus inside of the water, takes a recording, sends it off to a lab thousands of miles away. They play it in water that's just normal, everyday, just unaffected water. They play the sound of the virus, and they recreate the virus inside of the water. So in he's showing that you can do this with cures, and all these other scientists were trying to stop him, say that he's crazy because they want to silence this kind of conversation. Also in the tech world in San Francisco, they're using the same frequencies that resonate in certain pyramids in Egypt for levitation. So what I'm doing, what we're doing, when I say we, the sophisticated psychos, we connected with the subtle energies in name, and it's quantum physics. So it's putting the energy of, and this is all scientists, this is all documented, this is all fact-based stuff. This isn't me, this isn't the conspiracy theorist. That I lead with fact-based evidence, that the more you lit in the same way, when you say loving things into water, it changes the actual shape, it changes the structure of it. So we're putting this, it's binaural beats are one way of doing it. It's different, it's going to be silent. It's not that you're going to notice it, but you're going to feel it, and the more you listen to it, the better you feel. This has been around for centuries. It's just time to, we're moving backwards and we're moving forwards at the same time. Our ancestors used to talk about this kind of stuff, so we're just making it, giving it the respect it deserves again. So,
We could have a whole nother conversation about just energy. Because
man,
as a Reiki master, boy,
yes,
my eyes have been opened, like
huge, huge.
wide open to
Have you
energy.
ever heard of Donna Eden? Do you know Donna Eden?
I've heard the name. Yes, actually, yes.
Energy medicine. I studied with her. I
Yeah.
met her through Vision in Mind Valley, and that's a whole other. Yeah, I could definitely, anytime. I'd love talking about energy because I can show people, like, I can actually, I've learned, teachers, yeah, but yeah, energy is everything. And that's what's cool, is that lastly, I don't want to keep on talking about this, but we are going in, this is the world that we're going into. So no fear. If you feel like everything's being split apart, we're actually going into an exciting time. We just have to unlearn, and we're healing, and it's going to get more and more and more exciting because of people like us, because of this amazing community. So don't give up hope. It's actually getting better. Okay. And that's it.
Can't raise the vibration of the world overnight, right?
Right.
Takes
Exactly.
each one of us.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, thanks again. You're awesome. You're a rock star.
Ah, likewise. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
Again,
appreciate you.
I'm going to link everything that we just talked about in the show notes, the YouTube, the documentaries, any resources that Nikki mentioned, I'll put in the show notes. And yeah, remember, when you unleash your heart, you unleash your life. Much love.
Yes.